Welcome everyone to Let's Start the Conversation, which is a series of town halls discussing important matters around the world. Today, I'm beyond excited to talk about hunger in America. We have some incredible guests that are educated on this topic, but before we get started and before we get into the town hall, I have to introduce my co-host. For those who attended my last town hall, I was accompanied by the one and only Trell Thomas.
Hey, Khloe, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? How are you doing? And can you introduce yourself and what have you been up to?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everybody. My name is Trell Thomas, and I'm so honored to share space with the amazing Khloe, who is so inspirational, even to myself. Someone who works and I work at the intersection of brands, charities, and celebrities, and really help to bring social good and social issues to the forefront. Um, wow, I don't know what else to say, Chloe, besides like I love making the world a better place, and I think that that's why we're here today as well. So, how are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. Just a lot has been going on. I'm getting to do this town hall, which I'm very excited to be doing with you. Do Chloe cares, all those fun things. All those great things.
Great, and this is our second town hall together, and I know that um, we're talking about hunger in America, and it's a huge problem, right? I know that Feeding America says that 2/3 of the people facing hunger have incomes that are above the poverty line.
That is ridiculous. And I know that you will hear the term food insecurity, which is often the means a household inability to provide enough food for every person to live an active, healthy life.
Yeah, and the pandemic has made it even worse. It made situations really hard for a lot of people and families, especially those with unstable employment. And I want to share a statistic with everybody here today. About 54 million people, including 18 million children, may experience food insecurity this year. That is a lot of people, Chloe.
That is a lot of people. And I think it's just crazy. That's all just this year.
This year.
That's it. And it's so important that we have these conversations because it could easily be your neighbor or your friend that could be experiencing food insecurity.
Yep.
It is also my privilege to introduce to you Kristen Castree from A Place at the Table.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Hi,
Good.
Christian.
I'm so honored to be here, and I loved your last town hall. I thought it was really excellent, informative, and really pretty moving. And I'd just like to also thank you both for putting this together, because this is a topic obviously that I spend every day working on. So it's very important to me that people are talking about it, and this group that you've put together is really incredible. I know some of the people that we'll be talking to today, and they are, personally some of my heroes. So you've got a great group.
Thank you so much, Kristen. And I also want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us for this important conversation. Kristen and I met on another campaign, and I was probably the youngest kid to be a part of the Flip the Table crew. Kristen, you introduced me to the Place at the Table, so I want to know, what is A Place at the Table?
Sure. Well, A Place at the Table is an organization that seeks to use creative ways to inspire people to use their voice to call for our leaders to make ending hunger and poverty a national priority. And we do that in a number of ways, most importantly by shifting the mindset that people typically have about hunger and and its causes. So we talk a lot about the root causes of hunger, and we talk about the recent history of hunger in America, maybe the past 30 or 40 years. We talk about the fact that hunger is very much solvable. It's a problem that we could solve if we made it a priority. And we try to educate people about what systemic change is and what the difference between tackling a big societal problem through long-term systemic solutions versus do emergency measures like food banks and soup kitchens, which are very, very, very important because people need to eat today. But we try to talk about ways we can help everybody be eating in 10 years or 5 years. So A Place at the Table really started with a film. And it came out in 2013, and the film was directed by Laurie Silverbush and chef and activist Tom Colicchio. He's a judge on Top Chef. He was one of the executive producers. And so the organization really seeks to kind of carry on the legacy of the film.
Wow, that's thank you for sharing and your incredible work, Kristen. I would ask a follow-up question because I'm very interested in just learning more. What is reading those numbers and learning the numbers that I shared with everyone earlier? I have a real question of like, what is the scope of hunger in America, and then what's its impact on America?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned some really, really shocking statistics about what's happening right now. But what a lot of people don't know is that before the pandemic, 37 million people were hungry, and 11.1 million children were hungry. So, the crisis, the recent crisis, has really made the hunger problem much, much, much worse, and it's also a lot more visible than it ever has been before. I think people are starting to see that in addition to being really stressful to not know where your next meal might be coming from, or not being able to afford healthy food for yourself or your kids, it also really impacts people's health. And it makes them really vulnerable to illness and disease, and it compromises their immune systems. And everybody's immune systems need to be really up and running right now. And so it's not quite fair that not everybody has the chance to have access to healthy food the way that other people do. And so it's really our responsibility as a society to ensure that. So, we talk a lot about the ways in which hunger impacts all of us. So if even one person has to go without food or worry about where their food's coming from, it really compromises the whole community. And that's something that's not always obvious. But I think with the recent pandemic, it's becoming a lot more clear how true that is all the time.
Yeah, I thank you again for sharing that. I think Khloe and I were talking, and one thing that we also want to know, Khloe, I think that is what can we do? Like, what can Americans do?
Yeah, well, one thing that's really clear is that charity alone is not going to be able to solve the problem. I mean, I think probably maybe everyone who's tuning in right now probably saw on TV the lines of cars lining up down a superhighway waiting for boxes of food from food pantries. And thank goodness there are food pantries right now to do that. But that's not going to solve the problem. So, we're really at a moment where people are more open to the ways that systemic change, and that's like national or local government programs and policies, can address the root causes of hunger. And, there are systemic changes out there that can work. And I'll give you like a few examples. So one of it's there, I could go on for a long time about it, but there are a few like really big ones. So the first really big one is that, is that hunger exists in America because there's widespread poverty. Sometimes people think of hunger as kind of this separate thing. And what it's really a symptom of is the fact that many people are not able to make enough money to make ends meet. And that's because, that the cost of healthy food has not kept up in line with the cost of living, which basically means like $1 doesn't buy what it used to. And so if we want to make ending poverty a priority, we need to require that all businesses pay a minimum wage that allows people to access what they need to be healthy. And so, you brought up earlier the fact that, the Feeding America statistic, about 2/3 of Americans who are hungry actually make more money than the federal poverty line. So that tells you right there, it's not enough, right? So, we can raise that minimum wage. We can require businesses to do that. And we require businesses to do all kinds of things. And that's one thing we can do. So, but in order to do that, it really takes everybody speaking up, voting, being a part of the government, deciding you're going to be one of those leaders that makes an impact, and decide that you're going to be the one who wants to be the president or wants to run for Congress or wants to be the mayor of your town. And then you get to decide what's the most important thing. But even just using social media platforms and using, your circle in school, or using your community the way that Khloe does, you can build awareness and get people on board with you. The second thing I would say is that making sure that healthy food isn't so expensive relative to unhealthy food. So one of the reasons why, if you like buy a bag of chips, it's really cheap, but to buy like a nice bag of like clementines or something, it's more expensive, is because, there are businesses who get subsidies for growing the kinds of crops that go into unhealthy food. So that's another systemic thing. We can tell our members of Congress, look, we want to do whatever we have to do to make healthy food cheaper, so that it's more in line. And then the third thing is, another really kind of easy thing, I mean, I say it's easy, but if we decided to do it, it would be easy, is to make sure that every kid gets free meals at school. So free breakfast and free lunch, because every school has a kitchen, every school has a meal program, and it would really be pretty streamlined to say, okay, we're going to invest a little more and make sure that everybody, no matter who they are, whatever the kinds of money that they're able to access, just gets it for free. And then everybody feels like they are taken care of and cared for in school. And that would make a big, big difference.
Wow, what I'm hearing from you is just like everything is just connected. And like from our boats to just, what we make, our wages. Wow, it's just, thank you for connecting those dots in such a seamless way. Khloe, I know that you've seen the documentary A Place at the Table, right? How did you feel after watching that?
It really opened my eyes after I had watched The Place at the Table. It really made me realize what food insecurity really was. And it really made me want to do actual work, make me want to do more work with food insecurity and help stop it. But yeah, it really opened my eyes to what it was.
Yeah, this is, and I hope that within this town hall that we're hosting today, that a lot of eyes become open, and that we take action, because that's really, really important. Again, thank you so much, Kristen. I want to bring up our next speaker now, and she was featured in the documentary, and that is Barbie Izquierdo. Right, Barbie, that's I got it right?
You got it right, Izquierdo.
Yes. Well, yeah, welcome
Thank you for having me. It's truly a pleasure and an honor to be working with all of you. And I'm so truly inspired by Khloe and all the work that she's doing, not only to fight food insecurity, but homelessness. She is such a superstar. So thank you so much for having me today.
Yes, hi Barbie. I am so happy you are here with us today. Prepping for this town hall, we had a chance to chat through email as well as through Zoom. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your family, like where do you live and what you do?
Sure. So I'm Barbie Izquierdo. I have been a social justice, food justice advocate for about 13 years now. It all stemmed from my personal fight with food insecurity and trying to make ends meet, getting off of welfare, trying to support my kids. And I just saw a lot of injustices in the system, and I felt like I knew a lot of people felt like me, and we would get together and we would talk about it and we would just complain about how things didn't work. And I just started to actually talk about it. I'll get into that a little bit more later. What I'm currently doing, I actually have started a new job 2 days ago with Hunger Free America. I am their community empowerment manager. So I will be helping to make sure that people in low income communities know how important it is for them to vote. And then from there, I'll be working on their hunger action board, which consists of people with finding people with lived experiences like me who are willing to share their story and also join in on the fight against food insecurity.
That is awesome. I love everything that you are doing and just everything that you have done. And also, I love that you're able to share your story.
Thank you.
Yes, I just love that. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to echo Chloe's sentiments, and it's so. Thank you for being transparent, and for being vulnerable. Like a lot of times, like people, that takes a certain amount of courage. It takes a certain amount of care and leadership. So I really want to thank you for that. And you started to talk a little bit about your experience with food insecurity. So I want to delve into that just a little bit more, so people really understand what was your personal experience with it.
It definitely was not easy. Some of the hardest moments of my life, not just on a personal basis, but thinking about how food insecurity affected my kids when they were babies, how it has affected them, growing up. It definitely was a struggle. I would say one of the hardest things when it comes to food insecurity is dealing with the shame of feeling different, feeling like you don't matter, feeling like you're worth less than other people. I've struggled looking people in the eye, just feeling like, it's like you always feel like someone knows that you didn't have it as much as them, or that you walk into a room and people might think that you're not paying attention or unable to focus, and it's people don't really think about, well, what's causing that. I've worked at other food organizations while still struggling with food insecurity, and didn't even have the courage to say, I know I'm helping people every day get food stamps or get food from the food bank, but I need some. It was difficult having to choose between paying a bill and feeding my children or feeding myself. And of course, I always made sure my children were fed, but there were circumstances that were very, 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 very hard. One of the hardest parts about my personal experience was, like I said in the film, having to force my kids to sleep without nothing to eat, and them saying, I'm hungry. And from the anger, just yelling at them like, no, you got to go to bed. It's time to go to sleep. And it was just, I didn't have the heart to tell my kids, you have to go to sleep because I can't give you any more food. We don't have anything else. To get more into like the specifics, I feel like hunger is like psychological warfare. And I've said this before. On one side, it's like this undying resilience to keep pushing forward no matter what's presented in front of you. You're gonna make it work, you're gonna find a way. And on the other side, you're tired, you're scared, you're humiliated, you have body aches, you have belly aches, you can't focus. So it's a constant struggle and battle between what can I do, what am I going to do, what can be done, and ultimately, within yourself, feeling like you're not worth it.
Wow. Wow. I just have to say again, like this, you are inspiring me. I know we really just met for real, and I'm so inspired by your vulnerability. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes, we are all very inspired by you, Barbie. And I love, kind of like what Trell said, I love that you're able to be vulnerable with us and able to tell us about your experience. Even though it was a hard time in life, I'm just so happy at the fact that you're able to share with us so that we can really help other people as
Thank
well.
you. Thank you. Yeah, it's what I've learned. I mean, my journey started by, I was given an opportunity by Dr. Mariana Chilton. We started with the Witnesses to Hunger program together. What that was basically, it started off just me, and then I helped recruit other people. It turned into 40 mothers throughout Philadelphia, who were struggling in the same ways or in other ways with housing, food insecurity, domestic violence, all these different things. And we were given a camera and asked to basically show pictures of our life. It was like, how Mariana presented it to me was, if you could make changes, but you weren't in the room, take these pictures to show what is it that needs to be changed. And from there, we were given the opportunity to testify at Congress. Witnesses to Hunger has expanded, not just from Philadelphia. I know there's a chapter in Martha's Vineyard, in Boston. It's something that has changed my life. I met both Lori Silverbush and Christy Jacobson, the people who created the Place at the Table documentary. And it genuinely made me learn my voice. That in itself has also been a struggle, because when you start to talk about the difficulties of food insecurity, you also have to think about your family, your friends. What are they going to think? How do you say the things that you want to say without offending people? How much truth do you give the world? To also still feel respected and dignified in your own life, given your circumstances. So it's definitely been a struggle, but what I've learned is that if you don't talk about it, if you don't give people the raw deal, then how would they know how bad it really is? I'm just one person who's talking about it. There are millions of Americans who are suffering from food insecurity, who have way, way, way worse situations than anything that I've ever been through. And I just want to do my part in using my platform the right way to show people that, we can make a difference if we work together. We just have to be able to cross that boundary of not speaking up, or not being completely and utterly honest about your experience and how bad it may be.
Yes, most definitely. And now that we're on the track of what we were talking about here, I want to ask, what are you working on now that is helping spread awareness about food insecurity?
So I'm still traveling the country when I can, doing speaking engagements, raising awareness, not only for the film, but just trying to keep people engaged and active in food insecurity. In my prior job, even though it was completely unrelated, my last two jobs, I've created resource guides for the city of Philadelphia to be used within our network at the job that will outline zip codes and food banks, food pantries, soup kitchens, places that people can go to get food in their area. So even if like I was working in the mental health field and I was working as an organizer of domestic workers, and I still had to put my little spin of food insecurity, like, wait, what are we doing to help to make sure they're fed? Because it is my passion, and I'm truly grateful to Hunger Free America to be starting this new job, because I feel like I've been trying to actually find a job within the food insecurity realm that not only understands me and appreciates my expertise, but that could make me personally feel like I'm doing as much as I can to help, this world and to make sure that the work that I'm doing is relevant. So yeah, what I will be doing in this new role, as I said, is finding people with lived experience who are willing to testify. And, I think if I could do that for the rest of my life, I absolutely would. It's really hard to speak your truth. But it's definitely helped me grow. It's helped me become not only the woman, but the mother that I am. And this is something that is solvable. And hunger shouldn't exist here. I really do feel like people sometimes don't understand that we shouldn't be looking at who's to blame, and I'm guilty of this too. When I first found out that I was food insecure, because when you live this way, this is the way you live, this is all you know. But when someone points it out to you that you're different, then come the questions of who's to blame. Do I blame the generations before me? Do I blame my neighborhood? Do I blame the government? Do I blame myself? And what I had to learn was that, it doesn't matter who's to blame. What matters is that there are hungry people in this country, and that we need food to live. So denying someone the access and affordability to food is basically saying that you're not worth it, and it's something that I can't stand for.
Wow, so powerful. Barbie, you are a shining example of turning your pain into purpose. And we just thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for being a resource and a guiding light for other people. And just thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
See you later.
Thank you, Barbie.
Of course.
Our next guest is not only creating opportunities to give back, but he is a well-known entrepreneur in Los Angeles. I haven't told Ajay that he is my honorary uncle. He co-owns my favorite coffee shop, Hilltop, in Inglewood, and he is the founder of #Lunchbag. Let's welcome Ajay.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you, Trell. Always
Hey,
a pleasure,
Ajay.
Khloe. Hey, and thank you, Barbie and Kristen, for sharing your stories. They're very inspiring, and it's always nice to hear what other people are doing to fight the good fight. So thank you, everybody, for being here, for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you for coming. So, Ajay, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So yeah, I similar story to some of the ones that we've been hearing. I grew up. My mother moved to America. She was an immigrant. I was born in Detroit, and my mom and dad split up at a very young age, so I ended up in South Los Angeles. It was just me, my mom living in a 1-bedroom apartment. She was an entrepreneur, but she was working multiple jobs to try and kind of make ends meet. So we were living on welfare for a bit, and we did endorse some food insecurity ourselves, and there were definitely some hungry nights. But I did get to watch her persevere, and that's what really laid the groundwork for all the entrepreneurial work that I've done. Ever since I was walking, I was helping, and it was always around I'm like, ever since I could walk, it was, hey, can you help me do this? I'm like, Mom, no, I want to go outside the place. She goes, do you want to eat? And I'm like, okay, fine. So, having an appreciation and coming up and being an entrepreneur here in LA, it's always kind of had a layer of giving back into everything that I did in any facet of life. So I think for me, jumping into the hunger space was, it was interesting. So it was about 2012. And I was in therapy because there were some things that I was dealing with, and I wanted to seek some outside help. And I was prescribed to go out and volunteer. Anything that spoke to me, Carol was her name. Carol said, hey, you should really go out and volunteer. And I didn't really see the connection between going to donate my time or, go and do some hours at a soup kitchen and how it would help me with my whatever I was dealing with personally on a mental health tip. So, I kept putting it off on a weekly basis. Every time I'd go back, she said, did you go and volunteer? Did you find your opportunity? And, I just had it. It was just rolling onto my to-do list until finally I woke up was a Thanksgiving morning. A friend of mine called me and she said, "Hey, I'm gonna go volunteer at the soup kitchen. Do you want to join me?" And I was like, "Great! This is something that I haven't been proactively seeking out. Something that if I don't do it on this day, I'm probably never gonna do it. Thanksgiving is like the designated day of giving. It's the day you have to go out and do something." And I went and my personal experience in what I had and where the place that I went just honestly wasn't that great. So on top of having an unfulfilling, unfruitful experience, I felt a little guilty because, we all have things that we can be grateful for, and it's easy to forget when there's certain things that aren't going your way. So, when Christmas rolled around, which is day 2 of 2 of designated giving, when everybody's like, I should really go out and volunteer my time, I had decided that I just wanted to go to my local grocery store and buy enough food to feed 100 people. So bought enough food to feed 100 people. The criteria for the meal was like a meal that, other kids would have gotten jealous for in middle school, whenever with the fancy fruit snacks and the good fruit and the Capri Sun and all that stuff. And, bought 100, it was Christmas. So I bought 100 Christmas cards, invited some friends to my house, turned up some music, made a little dance party out of it. And, wrote out the 100 Christmas cards as a way to kind of acknowledge the people that we were feeding. And for me, hunger is something that you just see on a daily basis. Homelessness, living in Los Angeles, is something that you see, and it's easy to become invisible, but it's something that, especially now, over the years that we've been doing this, it's become more prominent. Anyway, so had all these people come over. We shared our experience, second nature, on our social media, jokingly naming it #lunchbag. We spelled the word hashtag out because we were making fun of how improperly people use hashtags, and it rhymed with lunch bag. That was kind of our marketing exercise. And we got such a positive response from our friends and our followers, and people texting us and emailing us saying how much fun it looked like what we were doing, how awesome it was, when the next time we were going to do this was. And they had never heard of this organization. And for me, it was like a one and done type of thing. I'm like, oh, wow, Carol was right. I volunteered. I feel great. I'm cured. On to the next one. But we had such a good time that it was something that we decided we wanted to run back the following month. And so we did. Had 10 people come to my house. We made 200 meals, the same deal. And Khloe, as you know, me and my partner Yoni own a restaurant on Melrose called The Parlor. And at that point, we had decided that every month, the following month happened to be my birthday. We just established a cadence where every month we would get our friends together, however big or small, and we would make these meals. So fast forward, every month leading up until the pandemic, we've hosted a #lunchbag here in Los Angeles. We usually get about 200 volunteers. We make about 1,500 meals ourselves. Everybody gets the full A to Z experience. It's a total party setting. It brings together extremely diverse groups of people because it's under the guise of something that's really, really fun. It's marketed as something really fun and cool and very social, and people come for a variety of reasons. But we've been through the power of social media. I think that, it's been an honor to say that we've grown to over 150 cities all over the world, all of these, and with 50 monthly active chapters, again, leading up to the pandemic. And the whole idea, once we look back on it, was the food was almost like, being able to provide a meal or a letter of acknowledgement to, whether it was the person that was hungry or one of the centers that we work with, was almost like the gateway to giving, and giving the people that, were volunteering with us, which aren't people like the ones that are, have dedicated their life work to solving this complex issue. But it's people that we need to get enrolled in, seeing how simple it is to get involved and using their personal platforms to make an immediate impact in their local community. So I'm not a nonprofit guy. I guess I am now, but like enough people asked us, once we were about a year in, if we were a nonprofit. So we ended up filing for a 501c3. We named it Living Through Giving because it was more about the act of giving that we wanted people to experience in this unique way. We don't think we created, obviously, feeding people that were experiencing hunger, but more so is the way that we did it, the way that we kind of leveraged social media to get other people involved. So it's amazing to watch where one of our core tenets is this idea of a ripple to a wave. Every little incremental action contributes to a larger outcome. And, we look at the events that we created like a full A to Z experience, whether you're coming there because you're looking for a volunteer opportunity, or you're lonely, or you want to meet a boy, or you want to meet a girl, or you want to look cool on social media, whatever the reason, whatever brought you there, we know that you're going to get to experience, you're going to help us cover some of the cost of money by making a nominal donation. You're going to meet new people. You're going to make sandwiches as if you're going to make them for yourself, or as if you're making them for somebody, something that you would want to eat, or somebody that you love. You're writing a note and it's something that you want to read when you're having a rainy day. You're having a dance break. You're introducing yourself to a stranger. You're posting your photos and inspiring other people. So that nonprofit has taken on a life of its own. We've now developed other programs that have like a similar vibe and a similar tone, but like this experience has really completely changed my perspective on, how I spend my time, who I spend my time with, what projects I take on. Things like Hilltop, which you mentioned, which is, I like to think of it, at least from my side, it's like a natural progression of, being an entrepreneur, being in the restaurant business, creating a movement around hunger, and now creating a space in a community that's so, community where I grew up that, doesn't have for some reason, doesn't have a lot of options outside of fast food, and, building community out of that. So very grateful to be able to have that experience at a relatively young age.
Well, wow, AJ. Well, thank you. And I'll use this time to say, you've answered like every question that we have so greatly, but I'll use this time to say that, man, you don't, like, we really are officially meeting today, but I found #lunchbag in New York City. And it was such, I was in one of those moments that you even spoke about where I just wanted to do good. And I just felt like I needed that. And it changed my life. I met not only was I able to give back to the community in New York City, but I met some of my closest friends now at #lunchbag in New York City, and even told everybody about it and helped get the Charlotte, North Carolina chapter started. So, man, I just want to say thank you in this very public space, because what you've done is not only combated food insecurity, but it's also just help raise awareness for people and bring people together in a way that was so unorthodox. And the last thing I'll say about that is, like, even those notes of positivity and sending those affirmations into the world and into people, it was so powerful for me, because when I was in like a very depressed stage, sticky notes got me through that, and affirmations on those. So, man, it's just, it's bigger. It's always bigger than we think. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you started, for what you're doing, and for the impact that it's having on the world.
Thank you for that. That means the world to me, man. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I know we haven't had a chance to meet in person, but to know that you've had the experience and been able to experience it firsthand in multiple cities, and knowing that this is a complete grassroots, open source type of thing. Anybody can do it anywhere. We don't have a big staff. We don't have a big infrastructure, but, we have dedicated people like you in these communities that have, taken the initiative to kind of create those experiences for people. And, not everybody that walks through the doors really completely gets what we're hoping to instill with them, which is this idea of we're using hunger and the unfortunate fact that there are hungry people, but we are educating them, right? There's all the statistics that everyone has shared. I think the one that got me was, I think at the time when we started this, it was 1 in 6 people experience hunger in the United States. But then the domino effect, the flip side of that, 40% of our food goes to waste. So it's not a question of a lack of resources or product. It's just getting people to care, right? And what are the right calls to action that can get people to hopefully arm them with the information to come to their own conclusion that it's really about everybody making we always say we'd rather inspire 1 million people to feed one person individually than for any one person to try to feed 1 million people themselves. And we have this really unique tool of the internet, and the fact that whether you have 10 followers or 10,000 or 10 million, you have the ability to change one person's mind about their role in the world. And that sometimes that catalyst is all it takes to get them out of a dark place and go on this journey of service, and realizing that the reason we named it Living Through Giving is, I'm not a religious guy, but when I look at 170 religions in the world, plus or minus, I see the only singular thing that they have in common is caring for your fellow man and woman. So I think that that's where we kind of sit with everything. I think, the pandemic has obviously thrown a wrench in how we kind of do things. We built an entire movement and a chapter-based nonprofit around this idea of creating social connection and using social media for something positive. But, we from an organizational standpoint and sustainability, a lot of the things that were helping support us kind of went away. So we, true to our mantra of doing what you can wherever you're at with whatever you've got, we were able to, tap into some amazing donors and corporations. And around LA, the first 2 months of the pandemic, we were able to get #LunchBag together at Hilltop with Beyond Meat. And we were able to provide over 70,000 meals to students that were experiencing food insecurity in the LAUSD school system. Most recently, we had somebody come through that really wanted to, buy through us, help. We facilitated the purchasing of just last week 5,000 meals from Black-owned restaurants that were suffering due to the pandemic shutdown, and had a team down in Santa Cruz and San Francisco distributing to the firefighters on the ground. So the creativity is.
I read all about that, man. And I'm so honored. I mean, I can't, I just think about it now, and I'm just beaming with pride and excitement, because just meeting you and hearing from the place of passion that you speak is incredible. So I want to thank you so much for just everything you're doing and for being here with us today. And I know Khloe was getting ready to say something. Khloe, I saw you. Sorry.
Thank you, Trell. Appreciate that.
I was just going to say thank you for just all of your work. You do such amazing work. But yes, I just want to say thank you, Ajay, for all the work that you do. I love #LunchBag. It has turned into a global movement. Keep spreading kindness. Our next guest has been changing the way we look at food insecurity in the Bronx. But first, before we bring him in, let's play a video. Okay, so it kind of looks like the video is not working, so we'll just get into talking to Steven. So let's bring in Steven.
I can't get in. Hello, Khloe, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello, Steven.
I don't know if you can see me, but I can see you. And from the Bronx, a big shout out and hello. We are fanboys. I think now you may be able to see me. So hello. The sun is out here in the Bronx, and it is a pleasure to see you.
Yes, it is a pleasure to see you too.
So thanks so much for having us. And hey, Trell, how are you today?
Hey, I'm great. How are you? I every time I see you in that hat, man, I'm so excited. I'm a hat man myself, so I relate.
Well, they called me the Big Cheese because I don't know if you know, I used to be over 300 pounds. So I went from being an athlete to obese to eating myself to good health, literally with the food that I grow with children in school.
Wow.
So it's been an interesting story. Remarkably, when I met Miss Obama, she wanted to know where the hat was. Secret Service took it, so the hat has kind of followed me everywhere, remarkably.
I love that. And I love that you started to get into your story. Tell us, can you explain to us what the green box machine is?
Sure. So it's simple. Green Bronx Machines grows vegetables. Our vegetables grow students. Our students grow schools. And we grow happy, healthy, resilient communities. And from the middle of public housing in the South Bronx, our humble little grassroots organization has gone on to touch over 500 schools, 50,000 students across 20 states and 5 nations. And we are growing something greater. Most importantly, what do we grow? We grow happy, healthy, high-performing schools with students filled like wonderful, young, inspirational people like Khloe, and we grow happy, healthy eaters and high-performing, resilient communities. So I like to say we are growing something greater. Our grassroots organization has partnered towards 2,200 living wage jobs in a community that has some of the highest unemployment and chronic underemployment in all of America. So I like to say, and collectively to every single one on the panel, I am a fan of Ajay's and Barbie's and Kristen. We go back, that we are the ones we are waiting for. And that's what this movement, that's what this moment allows us to be, the light inside of the tunnel instead of the light that we so desperately seek at the end.
Man, what an intro. What an intro. Thank you for sharing.
Dude, I eat my vegetables. I come locked and loaded, brother.
Yes.
Yes, what a wonderful intro. But you actually teach kids about sustainability, life skills, and how to grow produce. Why is this specifically important to the Bronx?
Well, listen, there is a Bronx in every community in America, but let's talk about the realities of the Bronx. The Bronx is the epicenter of the pandemic here in the United States. 4 of the 5 highest zip codes in America of infection rate per capita are the zip codes in the South Bronx. We also have the highest disconnectivity in the internet, the greatest number of essential workers. So when you think about what that impact means for all of us, it is time to grow something greater. It is time to stop blaming communities for failure and start thinking about policy, equity, and justice that moves this nation to a greater place. I really want to shout out Barbie for sharing her truths. It is so hard to be poor in America. It is a full-time job. And understanding that enables us to move to a better place where it's not going to be about philanthropy. Because listen, I am very philanthropic and I admire everyone's philanthropic endeavors. But it really has to be about policy. It has to be about law. It has to be ensuring that children have access to healthy, fresh food, that we stop celebritizing food and monetizing children and stop looking at them as epicenters of profit and really empower them. Khloe, you are a role model to me, my students, and so many others, because it is your generation that is really inheriting the collective failures of a lifetime. And yes, the pandemic has really woken us up, but these alarms have been going off for years. Sadly, they're now hitting the country in ways that we've never imagined. But the reality is we have the capacity in this nation to end hunger tomorrow. We can do this tomorrow. And once people understand that and coalesce around that, we can really, as a nation, move to a greater place, moving from equality to equity, and then removing the barriers that prevent justice, because all of us are entitled to opportunity. It's no longer about birthplace. It's about breakfast. It's no longer about lineage. It's not about lunch. And it is not about DNA. It is what you eat for dinner. And we can move from a nation that is preoccupied with healthcare to one that fosters self-care. And it all starts with food and putting unity back into our community. And that's the beauty of this panel here today. Member after member, panelist after panelist is really be championing community, equity, people exposing their vulnerability. And I thank you as a youngster, as a young child, as a torch bearer, and as a light for the future for carrying this torch. Because, it could be a lot cooler to be out watching, but to be out here crusading for hunger and equity is the most important work we can do, because the degree to which we resist injustice is the degree to which we are free. And when I look at you and I see your impact at your tender young age, it just reminds me that no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. And that's what this movement is about.
Bravo. Yes, I am fired up, man. You got me so excited. Thank you for your energy. and just your work. You've done a lot of partnerships with the New York City Department of Education, the Culinary Garden Camp, Qatar Foundation. What has been your favorite project to work on and why?
Well, right now, probably listen, every project has a unique value. But, I am a big believer in living in the moment. We can't stand on our accolades. We have to give respect to our elders and the shoulders of the giants that we stand upon. Right now, we're in the process of releasing a new film called Generation Growth, which has literally, there's the flyer. Thank you so much. And I can get everyone a copy of the trailer that literally highlights what is happening across America. It was a documentary 2 years in the making of me visiting schools across the nation, talking with parents, teachers, children, community advocates, faith-based community, and really highlights what is possible when people come together to grow something greater. I'm proud to say that we've kind of championed low-cost, replicable technology that can put a garden in a classroom 365 days a year, that grows copious amounts of food using 90% less water, 90% less space, and 90% less energy, putting food and the art and science of growing healthy, fresh food right in the middle of public education all year long. So it's exciting. I can't wait to share it with all of you. I know the children, we're going to be sending a letter to you, Khloe, so get ready. And we're just excited. At any time any of you are in the B to the Boogie Down Bronx, please come on up. You are all welcome to the National Health, Wellness, and Learning Center. We've hosted visitors from 60 countries and around the world, and it goes to show you that in the middle of public housing, in the poorest congressional district in America, in the least healthy county in all of New York State, New York can be a place not where the strong survive, but where all of us can have a seat at the table and thrive.
Stephen, I am just in love with your energy and everything you are saying, and I will be gladly taking that invitation. I go to New York plenty of times, and I will be taking that all that. I will be going, I will be visiting. But yes, what do you see for the near future to help communities that are affected by food insecurity, especially since inner cities may or may not have access to food gardens?
Well, right now, like I said, we are literally building underground gardens in offices. We're taking over commercial real estate and turning them into urban farms. But the big takeaway that I would like everyone here, from my humble perspective, to really think about, and Khloe, you are still, they're actually bringing up a video that shows how we grow food. So that's me, my little princes and princesses. This is literally how we grow food indoors. And that video was made by a 4th grader. And you're looking at just 24 days of food growing in the middle of public housing in a basement in the South Bronx. But for me, what I want you really to understand is that the most important school supply in the world is food, especially if you don't have it. That children will never be well read if they are not well fed. So making sure that every child has a wholesome plate of nutritious, delicious, locally grown, healthy food is perhaps the greatest gift we can give to ourselves, our communities, and future generations. I love that picture of you. That could be the poster in my room. I'm going to ask you for some autographed ones for the kids. You are their hero.
Thank you so much for joining us, Stephen, and for sharing so much valuable information and with so much enthusiasm. We really, really appreciate you and every single panelist that has joined us today. And stick around and we might have some more questions for you, but thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Now it is time to introduce our next guest, which is Mary Pat. Would you like to come on, Mary Pat? Hi.
I'm talking and you can't hear me because it's on mute. How are you all?
I'm good.
Hi, Mary Pat. How are you?
I'm doing the best that I can. A little stressed. Midterms are next week, but we are going to get through this. As well as through November the 3rd. So I'm just taking it day by day. How are you all?
Good. Very excited to speak to you. That's how I'm doing. But yes, let me go into my first question. So Mary Pat, you started community organizing at the age of 12. I can relate to being a young Black girl, being a community leader, and you sparked your leadership interest at such a young age.
Thank you so much. Growing up, my mom always said that you didn't need anyone's validation or permission to be great. And despite your age, it's very important for you to walk into your purpose. And so it just makes me happy when I see, people like you who don't take no for an answer. And you don't allow people to tell you to wait your turn, and you walk in your destiny each and every day. So I'm very proud of you, but for all of the young people that are watching this right now, I'm encouraging you to just take a leap of faith, and realize that you don't have to wait to be great. You don't need anyone's permission to change the world. You can do so right now.
You don't have to wait to be great. I love that. And shout out to Mama for really, really instilling you with that knowledge. And I love that she told you that at such an early age. After doing extensive research about college kids experience food insecurity, you took a huge stand to organize an event, right? And to organize what was called hunger strikes.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about why this was even an issue on college campuses to begin with.
Yeah. So actually, I during my undergrad, I was at Spelman College. And if you know anything about historically Black colleges and universities, you know that schools like Spelman and Howard and Morehouse are kind of seen as prominent historically Black colleges and universities. So when there are a lot of issues impacting our universities, they often get swept under the rug, and a lot of people don't really like to talk about them. But I really didn't know anything about college hunger, or hunger really wasn't an issue for me that I thought about or even noticed, which really makes me sad.
You're on mute. I think you got muted.
I definitely got muted. And it's sad to say I didn't have my first experience with hunger or homelessness until I was a sophomore in college at Spelman, and the first time that I realized there was a problem, there was a young woman who would always ask, like, hey, like, can I please use your meal card? Can I please use your meal card? And I often didn't use my meal swipes, which is what a lot of students who have these meal plans do. They may pay for food from cafeterias and other things, but I would always give her my meal card. And at one point, she came back to me and said, they confiscated your meal card. You have to go and pick it up from the people at the cafeteria. And that's when it became a big issue for me, because I thought, why is it that if I am paying for a meal plan, that if I am not utilizing the food that I paid for, that other students can't use it if I gave them my card? And we learned that it was policy that you're not able to share your meal card or swipes with students if your name is not on the card. And that really took me by surprise. And so we started an organization on campus, and we gave away a $2,000 scholarship each month for students to just be able to eat. And we asked them to send us videos on what they'd use this $2,000 stipend for. And it didn't have to be for, paying your tuition or your books, which is what most scholarships do. But we wanted it to go towards them. And in the videos, you hear things like, I need this money to, pay for my rent. I need this money because I'm currently living in my car. I have nowhere else to go. So I go to friend's house each day to go to sleep. And honestly, the last thing that they thought about spending their money on was food. Like, that was the last thing. One student even talked about the fact that, during her time of the month, she didn't even have enough money to buy personal hygiene products. So every day she'd go to campus and say, hi, I just started. Can I borrow a tampon? And you realize, like, this is a real problem at not only just Spelman, but HBCUs all across the country. And so I decided to go undercover, myself and a few students, where we began telling our administration that we were actually doing our research, like our senior thesis. And I'm like, I'm a sophomore, I don't know how I'm doing a senior thesis, but okay. We told them that we were doing our senior thesis and we needed a few, some information to just kind of understand student hunger and food insecurity at Spelman and Morehouse specifically. And we were completely shocked at what we saw. First of all, 90% of the students at Spelman needed financial aid to even be able to go to the institution. And so we decided that we were going to present to them a plan through Swipe Out Hunger, which is allowing students to share their unused meal swipes with students who couldn't afford meal plans, and they said no. So we went on a hunger strike for about 2 weeks, and the rest is history. And that was a lot. Trell's like, Mary's talking so much.
It's so inspiring, Mary. Like, I mean, I just think about even my college days and like the bravery, the courage that you had to have, the fortitude. It's really, really inspiring. So listen, I could listen to you talk about, in fact, I want to talk to you after about this. And Khloe, I know that we have to wrap up the panel really soon. So I'll let you come on and we're going to bring everybody back and we're going to talk a little bit. But Mary Pat, you're amazing. Thank you so much. And it's awe-inspiring.
Yes, and thank you everyone for watching today. And let's bring up everyone, yes, turn on your videos. And I just want to know, since we are talking on food insecurity and with everything that's going on, what would you say is like a call to action or a way for what you guys are doing or what other people can do to really help combat food insecurity?
And we'll start with Mary Pat, and then we'll go to Steven, Barbie, and then we'll round out with AJ.
I think the first thing would have to be just talking to people. I feel like a lot of times, we've heard this reoccurring theme throughout the panel. People are living with this in silence, where oftentimes, and I think Barbie talked about it, she didn't want to talk to her family or friends about that experience for fear of what they might think. And so I feel like the first thing you can do is talk to someone and not be afraid to share your experience. I know culture at HBCUs, you deal with certain things and you pretend like nothing's wrong or, you're embarrassed or ashamed, but no one can do anything unless you say something. And so I'd have to say, don't be afraid to be your biggest advocate. Don't be afraid to say something's wrong, because once you do that, you'll realize that you're not alone.
Thank you, Mary Pat. Steven, will go to you.
Super. So each and every day you get to vote a minimum of 3 times. You vote with your mouth, you vote with your fork, you vote with your wallet. And this November, please get to the ballot and get out there and vote. So the decisions you make about the food you put in your mouths, in your family's bellies, reducing the distance to plate, and the way you use your quarters, your nickels, your dimes, your pennies to support businesses like Ajay's that don't just give back, but pay it forward, are really critical to creating concentric circles of success. And that to me is what it's all about, being hyper connected, hyper local, and being comfortable and confident speaking truths to power that challenge the status quo. We need to de-celebritize food and re-celebrate our youth. So I thank you all for being here. And it's easy. Eat local, eat humble, eat simple, and grow something great. And support local.
Yes, that is amazing. And then we can go on to Kristen. Let's do Kristen.
Hi, yeah, I'd love to echo everything that was already said, and also just encourage everybody who's watching to, follow Mary Pat and Barbie and AJ and Steven, and just what they're doing amazing work, and Khloe and Trell as well. So they can be really inspiring, and also will continue to do work that you might be able to get involved with and support. The other thing I would say is consider a career in public service, or decide that you may someday want to run for something, for president, for Congress, for school board, because those are some of the places that you might be able to influence policy. And also just to also echo another thing that Stephen said is just be an informed consumer. And I just want to plug a little, an online magazine called thecounter.org that has a lot of stories about where our food comes from and who are the people who are involved in producing our food and what are some of the injustices that go on from within the food system that we can all be better aware of and be a part of solutions for. So I would just that might be a good thing to follow and get on their mailing list.
Awesome, thank you, Kristen. We will let's go to Ajay. Actually, because I can see Ajay.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the most important thing. You know, I think as someone who procrastinated a while to kind of feed the inner hunger that, you know, I think that we all have inside of ourselves. Probably one of the reasons is it can feel intimidating towards getting involved. So there's a lot of amazing people doing amazing work, especially in this room. But you know, there's a lot of organizations that need your support. So you don't have to quit your life and sacrifice all of your time or quit your vocation. More than likely, if you're in a school situation or if you're working at a job, you have the ability to become an internal champion and kind of become a catalyst for changing the way that other people think about their role in the world. None of our organizations would be what they are without the support of everyday people just contributing, even if it's just a little bit. So don't be intimidated. Don't feel like you have to quit everything that you're doing and go and start your own thing. Just be aware and just be kind in your everyday interaction.
Thanks, Ajay. And then we will round out with Barbie. And I see you have two people with you that we didn't meet before.
This is Leilani and Aiden. The last time people have seen them was probably in a place at the table when they were like 2 and 3 and 4 years old. So they're pretty much teenagers now. I wanted to give them the opportunity to just be seen. But if there's anything that I would say that hasn't already been said, would be to not be afraid to hold people accountable. And that absolutely means to go vote. That absolutely means to go talk to, you know, your friends, family, whoever it is that you need to raise awareness. That absolutely means supporting, you know, local farmers, local grocers, and also, you know, dedicating any time to food banks, volunteering, or just, you know, supporting them in any way, even if it's just like a thank you letter. But what I would say is, find out who are your community leaders, who's in your district. If there's a policy that you do not agree with, don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call that you know, your local office and let them know, I'm your constituent and I don't agree with this. People in my community don't agree with this, so that people in government are better informed as to what works and what doesn't work in our communities. Because if we're talking about it, but we're not presenting it to the people that can officially make the changes, we're just talking about it. So don't be afraid to use your voice and put your opinion where it counts most, which also means to go out and vote.
Yes, and lastly, to all the guests on our panel today are actively doing something to combat food insecurity. Reach out to them, volunteer, and even donate to them. Thank you so much, everybody, all of our panelists, and thank you for everybody who has joined and watched in today. Have an awesome day.
See you, everybody. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.